CEI. As we look at CEI, they had a big push up this last week. They took off a little bit. They shot up over that dollar mark. So when we look back before the dollar mark and we look at where they were trajectorying at, they were already starting to rise up. Now they've definitely pushed up past that resistance line to make it to that next level. As they did that, and we look at CEI, Camber Energy, as we get into that sector and look back at pushes, they're one that on February 17th, 2021, they were up over $2. So right now we're in that void where we're pushing up, and we push past that 1.285, and now we're heading, and if we can get through a resistance and get up past 1.776 and head towards the 2.268, that will be that next level after how things came out in September. After we finish Friday the 10th, coming into this next Monday, I think by next Friday, you'll definitely see them on that verge where they can stay above that 1.776. And if they keep that trajectory going up, they can continue a strong push through September, where maybe they could finish September close to that $2 mark. By looking at this is going back to 2007. So this is one of those where if you invest now, you might have $1 to $2 in, depending on where if you're a bag holder and where you're averaging down to, where you're able to get in at. Your entry point is always key. So depending on your entry point, if you get in for $1 or $2 and you're underneath, this is one of those stocks that it was way up there and it was worth a ton of money when it came out, and it slowly went through some major declines. And you have to check the stock history. I'm not going to get into all of it, but when you do your research, there's some key points that point out of why it kind of came down, where it kind of fell at, mergers, things that didn't go through to full fruition, and things cause stocks to decline. As it declined through in 2011, it was still on that trajectory downward. So as we came through the years, you can kind of see down here where in 2015 it kind of had one of its last real high peaks. As we moved forward into 2017, it was still holding some money value to it, where then it came down, and we've kind of, by 2018, it was hitting its lower points and continued to travel downward. As it did this, it moved to the point where we can see if we hit a target and we wanted to shoot for a target for it to rise back up to the next on a reverse strategy, looking at it at the chart, but going in reverse on the chart, we could have looked at to build back up to where it was back here. We need to take and first hit those first small marks. For me, I look at some of the small marks being where it just went through, but we want to see it go to this $3, the $6, the $9, the $12. So right now I put a target on it that by 2022 we want to see it get to that $11.50. If it can get back to the price point where it can continue its trajectory upwards through 2022 by the end of 2023, and then looking forward into 2024, with the merger with Viking and some of the stuff that's linked with this. You have wind farms, and you look at the green deals, infrastructure packages, the next 10 years coming out, what's going to be impacted in the next 10 years, and how big energy is going to play in the market. This could be one of those stocks that in 10 years might be back up there to over $100. But you never know. But for a couple dollar play, just get in and treat all your plays like they're the most important plays. So play smart with your money, invest your money. Even a little bit goes a long way when you're looking at 10, 20 years down the road, because if you can invest in it, and it's all about your entry point. So if the entry point is low enough now that you're able to invest in it, later on it might not be at an entry point that's you're able to invest in it. So, and if it drops lower, that's where, if you're holding it for a long term, if it happened to drop lower, then you match your shares and you cut that in half. So that way you can lower your investment but double your position. After the initial listing, if a stock average closing price over any 30 consecutive trading days falls below $1, the stock is subject to delisting from the NYSE from the NYSE. This means that a stock can trade for less than $1 at any time as long as its average closing price stays above $1. If the buyout is an all-cash deal, shares of your stock will disappear from your portfolio at some point following the deal's official closing date and be replaced by the cash value of the shares specified in the buyout. If it is an all-stock deal, the shares will be replaced by shares of the company doing the buying. So when we looked at Viking, or the company, is pleased to announce the completion of another deal with its majority-owned shareholder, Camber Energy. So when we look at the NYSE and we look at CEI, Camber, which purchased $11 million worth of common stock of Viking. So when we look at stock price targets for CEI, it's one of those that if you got in before this last rise and you were in it under $1, you could definitely be looking at something years from now, and you want to think that this could be that stock that definitely could rise up and yield you a healthy profit in the end. By doing that, we look back at the lowest points that it's hit. And when I looked at the lowest point where it was, I believe we hit the low, and now we're just on where the demand is going up. So now if the supply is not there for the demand, this is another one of those stocks where that will push the stock price higher. It's people are trying to get more demand and there's less supply. If this happens, that price rises. When we look at going back on a max graph, you can see where it was, and if we're looking at a reverse strategy on this, then maybe you're looking at 14 years to go from 07 to 21. So maybe you're looking at 14 years in the future, that by 2035, 2040, this could be that stock that has long play potential and a high return on it. I'm not saying that it could be as high as what you're seeing, but to say that stock can reverse and come back, there's no telling in the market with inflation each year. And if at any time, if a company starts acquiring more companies, or there's more mergers, or depending on what company a merger goes with, what could happen with any stock at any given time. That's the volatility in the market, that when you look at it, this is definitely, in my eyes, hit its lowest, and now it's definitely on that reverse track back to going up and climbing. So with this stock, I think the moon is the limits with this, and as we go towards the moon and we start building gateway, and we look at Mars, and we look at where we're going to put in energy, and as we're sending things outside our atmosphere, the energy in our atmosphere is definitely going to be needed from all sources. When you look at solar, wind, hydrogen, everything on the market, all energy plays definitely come into play to make a big impact into our future. Right now, on a 52-week range, they've went from that 33 cents to that $3.10. They definitely have that potential to hit that 52-week range and get back to that 52-week high by the end of the year if they continue on the trajectory they're going on. Right now, I would put a target for this next coming week at the $2.33 to $3.50. That if the demand shot up and you have enough leverage in there with the demand versus the supply, you could see this run quite a bit harder. So once again, this is Camber Energy, CEI. When you look back on press releases that got released on them, some of the stuff that stuck out was on January 14th of 2021, where they were Viking and Camber both extinguished $18.9 million worth of total debt, which is a very good thing for both companies going into a merger. I'm very bullish on this. Camber Energy secures exclusive IP license for patented carbon capture system, which can play a big role in contracts that they get in the future. So it's a system designed to capture 100% of the CO2. I had heard some rumors about Tesla, but I haven't got to read into that any farther. So if you have time, you can look up Tesla and stuff that they're offering and contracts that may be going out, things they're doing with their buildings. I wanted to look into that further, but that's just some research to put out there for self-education. Camber Energy acquires majority interest in Simpson Maxwell Ltd. So when you're looking at different things, this is another one to research. When you look at their earnings, we're waiting on their Q3. But when you look at their Q1 to Q2, they definitely had a rise. I would expect the Q3 to rise up even more. So play big, even if you're just buying one share for $1 to $2. Play like it's $100 share, and make sure you're smart with investing your money at all times. Anytime you're doing stuff, it's all about your entry point. So you always want to watch and don't have the fear of missing out. Make sure you enter at the lowest point possible for you in your wallet, and it's all about your mindset.